The diploma felt less like a key and more like a heavy, useless paperweight. It sat on the chipped Formica counter in his tiny apartment kitchen, right next to a stack of resumes nobody was reading. It was a Bachelor of Science in Culinary Arts, a testament to 4 years of scraping by on ramen and the promise of a chef's whites and a bustling Michelin-starred kitchen. Raiden Miller, all 20 years of him, ran a weary hand through his dark, wavy hair. He was built lean and strong, the kind of strength born from long hours on his feet, not lifting weights. But even his resilience was fraying under the relentless grind of job rejections. Every fine dining establishment in Portland, Maine, needed someone with at least 5 years post-grad experience or simply didn't return his calls. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Maya. "Counting the days until you make it big, chef. Love you." A genuine smile finally broke through the fatigue on Raiden's face. Maya, her image, bright eyes, easy laugh, and the comforting scent of jasmine whenever they hugged, was the only thing keeping him tethered to hope. She was his North Star, the reason he hustled. He typed back, "Soon, making us that big house kitchen. Promise." But the truth was, his savings were dwindling fast and the rent was due. "There's got to be something," he muttered, tossing the phone onto the couch. His eyes landed on a crumpled ad tucked under a magnet on the fridge. "Crew member needed. Fishing vessel, the Mariner." Raiden scoffed. Fishing? He was a saucier, a pastry apprentice, a line cook, for God's sake, not a deckhand. He could wield a santoku knife blindfolded, but he probably couldn't tie a proper knot to save his life. 2 days later, desperation trumped pride. He found himself on the docks, the air thick with the smell of salt, diesel, and something vaguely fishy. Captain Silas, a weathered man whose face was a roadmap of deep-sea journeys, eyed Raiden's soft hands and new sneakers. "You look like you belong in a kitchen, kid, not on a trawler. You ever fished a day in your life?" I can work hard, sir," Raiden said, pulling his shoulders back. "And I follow instructions. My degree is in cooking, but I need the money. I'm a quick study." Silas grunted, then spat a stream of tobacco juice into the gray harbor water. "Well, you got the grit in your eyes, I'll give you that. And the cook we had quit yesterday. You'll be deckhand and galley slave, long hours, back-breaking work, and the pay's only decent if the haul is good. You in or out, Miller?" Raiden swallowed the knot of disappointment that his first professional kitchen would be a cramped, rocking galley on a smelly boat. He thought of Maya, of the promised future, of the rent. "I'm in, Captain," he said, extending his hand. Life aboard the Mariner was brutal. The days bled into one another, marked by the rhythmic, deafening roar of the engines and the constant pitch and roll of the Atlantic. Raiden learned to brace himself against the deck, to haul nets heavy with the cold, silver bounty of the sea, and to fight the constant urge to throw up. His solace came in the ship's tiny utilitarian galley. Though the ingredients were humble, canned goods, frozen meats, and, ironically, the fish they just caught, Raiden transformed them. He didn't just cook, he elevated. He made hearty chowders that warmed the crew's bones, simple bread that tasted of home, and fish stews that somehow brought comfort to men who spent their lives chasing comfortless waters. The crew, a motley group of grizzled veterans and laconic young men, started looking forward to mealtime, a small oasis of flavor in their harsh reality. "Kid, you got golden hands," Silas admitted one night, scraping his bowl clean of a perfectly seasoned seared cod. "Waste of a talent out here, but I ain't complaining." Raiden just smiled. "I'll be back in a real kitchen soon, Captain. Just gotta make enough for a startup." He used his short breaks to write long, loving emails to Maya. He told her about the endless blue horizon, the raw power of the storms, and the deep, cold silence of the early mornings. He never mentioned the aching muscles or the freezing spray. Maya's replies were always full of encouragement, but lately they had become shorter, punctuated by excuses. "So busy with my new photography gig, sorry." Or family drama, been tied up all week. Raiden pushed the little doubts away. She was busy building her own future, just like he was. Absence made the heart grow fonder. His commitment was a sacred trust. The first hint of rot came, not with a smell, but with a sight. After a particularly fruitful 2-week haul, the mariner docked for a quick turnaround. Raiden, dizzy with exhaustion but high on the sight of his thick paycheck, grabbed a taxi straight to Maya's apartment, intending to surprise her. He planned to buy flowers, maybe take her out for a fancy dinner, his treat, before heading back out to sea. He walked up the familiar steps, juggling a bouquet of cheap but cheerful daisies. The window blinds were open, unusual for the middle of the day. He saw a flash of movement inside. He stopped, a cold dread starting in his stomach. Maya was on the couch, not alone. The person was sitting close to her, their heads bent together in what looked like a conspiratorial intimacy. As Raiden watched, the figure looked up, reaching a hand to brush a stray lock of hair from Maya's cheek. It was Ryan. Ryan Miller, Raiden's younger brother. Raiden's vision swam. Ryan was supposed to be across town, interning at some law firm. Why was he here? Why was his hand lingering on Maya's face with such proprietary tenderness? He saw Maya lean into the touch, smiling a soft, unguarded smile he hadn't seen in months. Then, Ryan's arm slipped around her shoulder, and he didn't just hug her. He pulled her in and kissed her. It wasn't a quick peck. It was a long, slow, comfortable kiss. The kind of kiss that belonged to people who were utterly familiar with each other, people who had been sharing secrets in bedrooms for a long time. The world stopped spinning. The smell of diesel and salt vanished. The only thing Raiden could hear was the frantic, sickening thud of his own heart. The daisies slipped from his numb fingers, landing with a soft, pathetic thud on the pavement. He didn't make a sound. He didn't rush in, didn't rage. He simply stood there, watching the scene through a glass that had just shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. Ryan pulled back, and Maya giggled, resting her head on his chest. And then the final fatal twist. He saw Ryan pull something out of his pocket, a gold chain, and place it around Maya's neck. It was a gift. It was a trade. Raiden backed away slowly, the sound of the crunching daisies beneath his feet a distant memory. The immense crushing weight of the sea, the heavy nets, the exhaustion, none of it compared to the featherlight, devastating betrayal he had just witnessed. He walked. He just walked. Not back to the docks, not to the apartment, but aimlessly, until his lungs ached and his legs burned. He ended up at a diner, the kind with vinyl booths and fluorescent lighting. He ordered coffee and stared out the window, his mind a wasteland. He had sacrificed his culinary dream, endured backbreaking labor, and fought every wave of doubt, all for the image of Maya, waiting. The whole time, she hadn't been waiting. She had been cozying up with his own blood, with his little brother, the one he had always looked out for. His phone began to vibrate, a relentless stream of calls and texts. Maya, Ryan, even his mother. He stared at a text from his mother. Raiden, please call us. Ryan and Maya have something important to tell you. Be supportive. Be supportive. The words tasted like ash. They knew. His family, the ones he was working so hard to make proud, were in on it. They had orchestrated it, allowed it, perhaps even encouraged it, while he was out on the cold, lonely ocean. The bitterness was like a corrosive acid in his throat. This wasn't just a breakup. It was the betrayal of an entire life, a family, a future. In one fluid motion, Raiden grabbed his phone. He opened the texting app, went to every family member, and Maya, and drafted a single identical message. It was short. It was final. I know, don't contact me again. I'm done. He hit send to all of them, then went to the settings menu and initiated the nuclear option, factory reset. The phone wiped clean, erasing every photo, every message, every contact, every trace of his previous life. He took the heavy, expensive fishing paycheck out of his pocket. It was enough to disappear. Raiden placed the phone on the sticky table, a dead black slab. He finished his lukewarm coffee. He was no longer Raiden Miller, the aspiring chef, the dutiful son, the trusting boyfriend. He was just a man with a heavy wallet and an empty future, and the vast, unfeeling ocean at his back. He stood up, pulling his weathered fishing jacket tighter around him. He walked out of the diner and headed, not back to Portland, but north, toward a new state, a new city, and a future he would build with hands that had learned to both tenderly season a fish and ruthlessly cut a line. His golden hands would no longer cook for love, but for power. The fishing money was a lifeline, but it was finite. Raiden had fled north, all the way to Boston, the bustling granite heart of Massachusetts. He rented a cramped, windowless room above a dusty laundromat in a rougher part of the city, miles away from the polished streets of Beacon Hill. The city was loud, unforgiving, and exactly what he needed. A place vast enough to swallow his pain whole. He didn't look for a kitchen job immediately. The thought of stepping back into the controlled chaos of a commercial galley, the place where he was supposed to fulfill his dream, felt like a cruel mockery. Instead, he took the hardest, most anonymous work he could find. Dishwashing in the basement of a massive convention center catering service. His shift started at 4 a.m., long before the city woke up. He stood for 12 hours in the steam and noise, scraping grease, scrubbing pots the size of small barrels, and stacking thousands of plates. The work was mindless, grueling, and perfect. It allowed him to turn his brain off, replacing the agonizing loop of betrayal with the simple, satisfying ache of physical exhaustion. But even the damp, dark basement couldn't kill his inherent passion. As the months passed, the head chef of the catering service, an imposing, overworked woman named Mrs. Petrov, started noticing the dishwashing kid. Raiden never complained. He was always early. And when the line cooks were overwhelmed, he didn't just stand there. He quietly started organizing their prep station, his movements precise and efficient. A rhythm learned from years of culinary training. One sweltering July afternoon, the main prep cook called out sick. The kitchen was in meltdown. "Miller, get your butt over here. Can you dice an onion without cutting off a finger?" Mrs. Petrov roared, stressed lines deepening around her eyes. "Yes, chef," Raiden said, wiping his hands and stepping onto the line. He didn't just dice the onions. He diced the carrots, minced the garlic, and julienned a mountain of peppers with the speed and uniformity of a machine. His knife work was a ballet of controlled intensity, a stark contrast to the sloppy work of the temporary staff. By the end of the shift, he had taken over the entire cold prep station, managing mise en place for a dinner service of 2,000. Mrs. Petrov, her face slick with sweat, pointed a greasy finger at him. "You lied to me, Miller. You're not just a dishwasher. Where did you learn that?" "Culinary school, chef. In Maine. Just needed to start somewhere." She didn't ask about his past. She didn't ask about his family. She just gave him a blunt nod. "Okay, hot prep line tomorrow, $15 an hour. Don't screw up." Raiden was back in a kitchen, but this time he was cooking with a cold, clear focus. His goal wasn't a family dream anymore. It was pure, unadulterated success. He cooked with a ruthless efficiency, cutting no corners, but also putting no soul into the food. He wanted prestige, recognition, and the kind of power that would make Maya, Ryan, and his entire complicit family realize exactly what they had thrown away. He climbed the ranks fast. From hot prep to sous chef in less than a year. running the massive catering kitchen like a general leading a well-oiled machine. His reputation in Boston's niche catering world began to spread. Radin Miller, young, genius with flavor, zero personality, but he gets the job done. 2 years into his Boston exile, Radin, now 22, was running a small, high-end private dining service under Mrs. Petrov's umbrella. It was at a launch party for a major tech firm that his life took an unexpected, jarring turn. He was in the corner, meticulously arranging a platter of smoked salmon and dill, his focus absolute. The room was a shimmering spectacle of tailored suits and evening gowns, a world away from his stained apron and the smell of fish scales. "Chef, that salmon looks almost too beautiful to eat." Radin didn't look up. "It's meant to be eaten, ma'am. Please enjoy." "I might just take the whole platter and run off with the artist." He finally lifted his head, ready to give a professional, dismissive smile. The woman standing before him stopped the breath in his chest. She was stunning, not in a glamorous, fragile way, but with a sharp, intelligent beauty. Her eyes, a striking shade of jade green, were framed by a sleek black bob. Her suit was impeccably tailored, projecting an aura of effortless authority. This was not a socialite. This was power walking. This was Alana Vance. Alana Vance, the 28-year-old CEO of Vance Tech, the youngest self-made billionaire in the state, the guest of honor whose event Radin was catering. "Alana Vance," she said, extending a hand. Her grip was firm, electric. "And you are the man who just made this event worth attending. Radin Miller, right? I read the catering brief." "Just Radin, ma'am," he corrected, pulling his hand back. "No, I don't think so. That presentation, the balance of smoke and citrus, that's not just Radin. That's art." She leaned in, her voice dropping. "My company is opening a new flagship corporate headquarters. We need an executive chef for our exclusive top-floor dining room. A place where deals are closed, not just catered." Radin stared at her, caught completely off guard. "Ms. Vance, I appreciate the compliment, but I'm content with my current arrangement." "Content is the enemy of genius, Radin." Her jade eyes bored into him, a mix of challenge and fascination. "I'm not offering you a job. I'm offering you a blank check and a chance to build your own empire inside mine. Full creative control, the best budget. We're talking Michelin-level aspirations, not just cafeteria food." Radin saw the opportunity, not just a job, but a launching pad. A place where his talent would finally be leveraged for the kind of visible success he now craved. It was the ultimate revenge. "What's the catch, Ms. Vance?" Alana gave a slow, predatory smile. "The catch is, you have to work for me, and I like to work closely with people who impress me. Very closely." Radin took the job. The next 18 months were a blur of construction, design, and relentless creation. Radin designed the kitchen from the ground up, selecting every piece of equipment, from the blast chillers to the custom-made induction range. His restaurant, The Pinnacle, was soon the most talked-about exclusive dining spot in Boston, housed high in the Vance Tech Tower. His food was revolutionary. It was technically flawless, deeply rooted in classic French and New England cuisine, but presented with the brutalist, minimalist aesthetic that was uniquely his own. Critics lauded his cold precision and emotionally distant genius. They didn't know the distance was real. Alana was there every step of the way, not just as his boss, but as a constant, complex presence. She pushed him, questioned him, and demanded excellence. But she also provided an unwavering defense against corporate interference. She was sharp, brilliant, and deeply lonely. The professional respect slowly, undeniably, began to shift. Alana started seeking him out after service, not to talk business, but just to talk. About art, about the ruthlessness required to succeed, about the loneliness at the top. She saw the controlled fire beneath Raiden's icy exterior. She saw the scar the world had left on him. Raiden found himself drawn to her. Her ambition matched his own. She was a different kind of woman than Maya. Maya was soft, comforting, and deceptive. Alana was hard, challenging, and completely, transparently honest about her hunger for power. One night, after a private tasting for a Japanese delegation, Raiden was exhausted. Alana came into the empty dining room, glass of champagne in hand. "They love the Wagyu, Raiden. You're a marvel." "Thank you, Ms. Vance. It's Alana. I think we're past the formalities." She walked toward him, her perfume a subtle, expensive cloud. "You work too hard. I see the darkness in your eyes, Raiden. It's beautiful. It means you're fighting for something." "I'm fighting for a 5-star review, Alana." "No," she countered, her voice low and direct. "You're fighting to prove them wrong, whoever they are." She took another step, closing the distance. "I know what betrayal feels like. It's a powerful fuel. But you can't live on fumes forever." She reached out and lightly touched the back of his hand, the same hand that had just played at a $300 course. The touch was warm, confident, and a clear statement of intent. Raiden was caught in a current of conflicting emotions. Alana was an intoxicating mix of challenge and shelter. She offered him a life of elevated partnership, a connection built on ambition rather than emotional weakness. But the scar was too deep. He had built an armored wall around his heart, cemented by the memory of Maya and Ryan. He was afraid of trusting another person, especially a woman who wielded power like a sword. "Alana," Raiden began, pulling his hand away gently, "I respect you immensely. You've given me everything, but I can't, I'm not ready." She didn't get angry, she simply nodded, a flicker of disappointment hidden behind her professional mask. "I respect that, Raiden, but I am not a patient woman, and I always get what I want. Remember that." Meanwhile, in Maine, the ripples of Raiden's success had begun to hit the shore. Ryan and Maya's relationship, built on a foundation of betrayal, was crumbling. They had married 6 months after Raiden left, driven by a quick pregnancy and pressure from the family. But the resentment and the shadow of Raiden's disappearance haunted them. Ryan was a mediocre lawyer, constantly comparing himself to the genius older brother who had vanished. Maya was miserable, realizing that the comfort she sought was hollow. Then the article dropped. A massive feature in the Boston Globe. The young king of culinary brutalism. How Raiden Miller built Boston's most exclusive kitchen. Maya saw the photo first. Raiden, older, sharper, clad in custom chef's whites, standing in his gleaming, high-tech kitchen. He looked like a stranger, cold, untouchable, utterly successful. The headline was a punch to her gut. She showed the article to Ryan. His face went pale with a sickening mix of envy and guilt. He actually did it. He made it big. The entire Miller family, parents, cousins, everyone was mobilized. Their shame over the betrayal instantly morphed into a desperate, grasping need for forgiveness and a share of the reflected glory. They called his old number, emailed defunct addresses, and started using every connection to find his precise location. "We have to find him," his mother insisted, tears streaming. "We need to apologize. He's family. He needs to meet his nephew." They didn't realize they weren't seeking forgiveness. They were seeking access. And Raiden, high above the city, building his impenetrable fortress of success, had already seen their true colors. He was sitting in his office, looking out at the glittering lights of Boston, when his personal assistant buzzed him. "Chef, I have a weird call. A woman named Maya Vance." "No, sorry, a Ms. Maya." Raiden's hand tightened on the armrest. He hadn't heard that name in 3 years. The sudden jolt of memory, the scent of jasmine, was quickly washed away by the cold, metallic taste of old betrayal. "Take a message," Raiden said, his voice flat, emotionless. "Tell her I'm in a long meeting. permanently. He was not ready to face his past. He had only just begun to savor the taste of his victory, a flavor far sweeter and more complex than any dish he had ever created. He was a king in his castle, and the only people allowed in were the ones he chose. The hunt was on, but Raiden was already too far ahead, shielded by layers of glass, steel, and a will forged in the fires of the deep sea and deep betrayal. 3 more years had passed, and the name Raiden Miller was synonymous with culinary excellence. The Pinnacle had earned its 3rd Michelin star, a feat unheard of for a corporate dining venue. Raiden, now 25, was a culinary celebrity, his reserved, intense demeanor adding to his mystique. His book, Brutalism on a Plate, was a national bestseller. He was no longer just a chef. He was an icon of single-minded, achieved success. His life was luxurious, meticulously controlled, and utterly insulated. He lived in a penthouse a few floors below Alana Vance, his apartment minimalist and sterile. He had mastered the art of professional intimacy with Alana. They shared late-night strategy sessions, celebrated milestones, and their bond was undeniable, built on mutual respect and shared ambition. Yet every time Alana's gaze lingered, reminding him of her unspoken desire, Raiden retreated behind the thick professional wall he had built. He couldn't risk the pain again. He had replaced love with success. The fame, however, had made him an easy target. The Miller family's search had intensified from desperation to a calculated campaign. Maya, now divorced from Ryan, and struggling to raise her young son in a financially strained situation, had leveraged her photography skills to track down every publicly available photo of Raiden. Ryan was a broken man, drowning in debt and professional failures. The entire family now believed their only salvation lay in Raiden's forgiveness, and more importantly, his wealth. One crisp autumn morning, Raiden was hosting an exclusive lunch for a major food critic. His assistant, an unflappable woman named Chloe, approached him with a pinched expression. "Chef, I apologize for the interruption. There are some people downstairs demanding to see you. They claim to be family." Raiden's hand, holding a delicate pair of tweezers, remained perfectly steady. "Name them, Chloe." "A woman named Maya, a man named Ryan, and an older couple, Mr. and Mrs. Miller." The air in the kitchen went instantly cold. It had been 6 years. The people who had been willing to cast him out for convenience and a quick affair were now at the gates of his fortress. "Tell them," Raiden instructed, his voice low and even, "that they have the wrong building. I don't know them." Chloe hesitated. "They are being quite disruptive, Chef. Mrs. Miller's crying." She said, "Tell Raiden his mother's here, and we just want to talk." A muscle twitched in Raiden's jaw. He closed his eyes briefly, gathering the iron will that had brought him here. "Call building security. Tell them to be escorted off the property. If they attempt to return, file a restraining order. Do not engage. Do not let them speak." Chloe nodded, surprised by the chilling finality in his tone, and quickly left. Raiden finished plating the dish, a work of art that masked the storm inside him. But the family was relentless. They staked out his apartment building. They flooded the Vance Tech switchboard with tearful calls. They even reached out to a local tabloid, positioning themselves as the wronged, heartbroken family of a cold, unfeeling prodigy who abandoned them. Raiden was forced to confront them when they finally ambushed him after a gala event. He was stepping into his waiting black car when his mother rushed out from the shadows, followed closely by his father, a shame-faced Ryan, and a pale, anxious Maya. "Raiden, stop, please," his mother cried, lunging forward. He stopped, but only to put his hand up, signaling his driver and security to wait. He turned, his gaze cold, meeting each of their eyes in turn. 6 years, Raiden said, his voice flat, carrying only the sterile echo of his stainless steel kitchen. 6 years, and not one of you has changed the calculation. His mother began to weep uncontrollably. We made a mistake, son. We were confused. Ryan and Maya were so young, and you thought it was easier to sacrifice me, Raiden finished for her. You thought the chef on the fishing trawler was expendable, replaceable. You chose comfort over loyalty, and you chose your own shame over my future. He looked at Ryan, who couldn't meet his eyes. You stole the one thing I held on to while I was breaking my back on the ocean. You stole my future, my sanity, and you did it with my own family's blessing. Finally, he looked at Maya. She was thinner, older, and her bright eyes were full of a desperate, defeated exhaustion. Maya, you knew what I was sacrificing for you. You knew the dream, and you traded it for a secret affair and a weak man. You are the reason I'm here. Not because I needed to be great, but because I needed to be gone. Maya rushed forward, holding out a crumpled photo of her son. Raiden, please. He's your nephew. He deserves to know his uncle. We need your help. Ryan is ruined. The business... Your need is irrelevant to me, Raiden cut her off sharply. You need help? You should have thought of that when you were building your life on a lie. You want to talk about family? I was out on the sea, sleeping in the cold, and you were all sitting around a dinner table, laughing at the idiot on the boat. His father stepped forward, his voice a pleading rasp. Son, we're proud of you. Let us be part of your success. We want to see your restaurant. Let us tell people we're your... That was the final confirmation. They weren't seeking absolution. They were seeking association. Raiden's face hardened into a mask of pure resolve. He didn't raise his voice, but the quiet intensity of his next words was far more devastating than a shout. I built this without you. Every success, every dollar, every star. You are a footnote to a painful chapter I have permanently closed. The only thing you all gave me was the motivation to ensure I would never, ever need you again. And for that, he gave a cold, faint smile. I thank you. He turned back to his waiting car. Security. If any of these people approach me or my workplace again, I will have them arrested and press every single charge available. You have your closure. Now go. He stepped into the car, and the world outside the tinted window, his mother sobbing, Ryan's defeated slump, Maya's silent tears, vanished. The line was cut. Permanently. A week later, Raiden was having dinner with Alana in her penthouse. A rare shared moment of quiet after the storm of the confrontation. Alana had been a silent rock during the whole ugly ordeal, handling the press inquiries with ruthless efficiency and protecting his privacy. They won't bother you again, Alana stated, swirling the wine in her glass. My legal team made sure of it. You handled that with remarkable restraint, Raiden. I wouldn't have been so merciful. Raiden put down his fork. There's no mercy, Alana. Just exhaustion. It's done. That part of my life is over. And what about this part? She asked, setting her glass down and finally dropping the professional veneer. Her jade eyes were open, vulnerable, yet determined. You have your empire. You have your revenge. You have the respect of the world. But you are still cooking for a ghost, Raiden. You are afraid to feel. He looked at her, this brilliant, powerful woman who saw his soul clearer than anyone. She wasn't Maya. She was a partner, an equal, and a challenge, not a comfort. She was the one who celebrated his strength, not the one who exploited his vulnerability. I'm afraid of the ruin that comes from trusting, he admitted, the words tasting like rust. Alana stood up and walked around the massive marble table, stopping right beside his chair. She didn't touch him, but the warmth of her presence was enveloping. I am not going to soften your edges, Raiden Miller. I don't want the man who cooks like he's at war. I want the man who built an empire from salt and silence. I know your scar, and I am not going to betray you, ever. I am offering you a different kind of life, one built on ambition, honesty, and shared power. I am a sure bet. Are you willing to take the chance to live instead of just succeeding? Raiden finally looked away from the past and into the intense, challenging present. Alana Vance was not a sweet promise. She was a cold, hard fact. A promise of a future where his strength would be her strength. The choice was between staying in his safe, sterile shell of success or venturing into a new territory of feeling. With a woman who had proven she could weather any storm, he had cut the line to his past. It was time to tie a new knot. Raiden slowly reached out and took her hand, his chef's hands calloused and strong, closing over her soft, commanding one. "Tell me what you want, Alana," he said, the ghost of a smile finally returning to his lips, a smile that was his own. Not one he wore for someone else. She smiled back, a fierce, victorious light in her eyes. "I want to share the view from the top with the only man who deserves it." He nodded, a sense of immense weight lifting from his shoulders. The memory of the fishing trawler, the betrayal, and the lonely fight would always be a part of him, the salt in the foundation. But it was no longer the whole story. Raiden Miller, the prodigy forged by betrayal, had won. And his victory was complete, not when he earned the stars, but when he finally let go of the past and decided to build a true, strong future.